Good morning and welcome to the fourth hour. It's great to have you along this morning. This is absolutely incredible. Now, this is from China, but this is the reason why I'm just a few moments late this morning. This is a fight that took place, and it's a regular knockdown, drag out. It's a couple of moms in a ball. You can see the ball pit, and man, they're going at it. What? What is? Wow. That's a smackdown, baby. Wow. So it's not just in America where people, going a little bit crazy these days. They're doing it in China too. That is absolutely wild. That caught my eye. I was getting going here this morning. Thanks so much for being here. I really do appreciate it. It's always great to have you along. Now, there are some other more significant stories to get to. I really wanted to share a number of the emails that I'm receiving, because as we were talking about who the new Senate Majority Leader should be, Mitch McConnell, saying that he would not running for re-election. He will end with his. So who will it be? And I received a number of emails. So I'm going to click over to my email screen. I'm not going to display these emails, but I do want to share them. I think this is the issue that I probably have heard from people most about recently. More on this, I think, than about the election. And overwhelmingly, folks are saying they do not want to see John Thune as the new majority leader. I heard from Stephanie earlier, Steve, right out of the gate this morning, as I mentioned this, saying no to John Thune. Steve Marino said he thinks that John Thune needs to be primaried out of office, Steve said. And then Stephanie said the same thing, not Thune and not John Cornyn. She said, I'm for Rand Paul or Josh Hawley, who I thought Josh Hawley would be a great choice. Andrew said, how about Ron Johnson of Wisconsin? Liberals hate him. He's a big Trump guy, he said. Jim said, I think the Republicans need to lose the old white guys image. Josh Hawley or Tim Scott, he said, would be good. Darren liked Joni Ernst from Iowa. Strong Midwestern woman. Let's see what else were folks saying. Carol was also upset. She said, she's sending the clip from Thune telling President Trump to stay out of the Senate Majority Leader process. Yeah, and we, our team had that on Kello News this morning. And I was a little bit taken aback by that. What did you think of that? John Thune saying to Donald Trump, got to stay out of the process. Let Republican senators select their own leader, and you should stay out of the process. That's not the way he phrased it. I don't have the actual quote in front of me, but that was the gist of it. And that struck a sour chord with Carol, who said, who does he think he is? During President Trump's last term, Thune was not supportive of the policies that the president put forth. Thune was embarrassed by President Trump and his tweets, etc. She said, we do not need another mini-me McConnell standing in the way of what the American people want done. Yeah, I agree that this really is a time for change. It's a time for change. And I don't think that John Thune is part of that change. I really don't. Based on where Thune has been the last 4 years, because seriously, I found myself in agreement with him probably fewer times than I found myself in agreement with him. That I was shaking my head and going, what has happened? So I totally understand what many of you are saying. I want to come back to this email from Evan. And then Orita had sent me an email saying, love your show. As an aside, I really hope Rhino Thune doesn't get the speakership. Yeah, absolutely right. And then Orita was making a point. I shared a Joe Rogan story this morning. And Joe Rogan giving advice to Donald Trump saying, don't get involved in a lot of these things. Take the high road. Keep taking the high road. Really is what Rogan was saying. It was a story at the New York Post regarding this, but it was something that Joe Rogan had said on his podcast. And Orita said, where I differ from Rogan is that the Democrats that have broken the law must be investigated and prosecuted. And I totally agree with that. Trump magnanimously didn't have his DOJ investigate and charge Hillary Clinton for her crimes. And there were many. And Orita said, in my opinion, she and others that have obviously been involved in criminal activity, some of it treasonous, must be prosecuted. What kind of a message does letting them get away with crime that you and I would be spending a lifetime in prison if we had done a fraction of the things that they've done? It's been rules for thee, but not for me for far too long. Orita, thanks so much for your email. Really appreciated that. And then Evan was responding. I shared a story from the New York Post this morning, and there were comments from Democratic operative Julie Rodzinski. And a lot of things what Rodzinski is saying about the Democrat Party is just spot on. I recommend, now I shared the piece on the air this morning. If you didn't hear that or you missed it, go to the New York Post. That's where you'll find it. And it was a fascinating piece with Julie Rodzinski. And so Evan is emailing here saying, Julie Rodzinski was dead on right in claiming the Democrats don't know what to say because they're too worried about offending one of the many, factions within the party. And frankly, they're always going to have that problem because many of those factions don't actually like each other. The Democratic Party has to have these different factions because no single one is big enough, powerful enough, or influential enough to play in the big league on their own. This is why their platform is frequently focused on hate Trump, hate Republicans, hate anyone that doesn't believe in and embrace their nonsensical views. They just hate. It's the only thing that unifies them. And it's the only drum that they're going to know how to beat after this loss. But now I think we're going to see the internal hate coming out as well. We're going to see a civil war within the party. Interesting. You think we'll see a civil war within the Democrat Party? I'm not so sure that that the Democrats are capable of doing that. All right, I want to take a look at some of your comments. Good to have all of you along this morning. Jay said, I heard the opinions this morning. I realize folks want someone more conservative, but don't we need to consider someone who can get both sides of the aisle to move forward? I don't know if that's the case. You're the Republican leader. Do you need to be able to work with Democrats? I would say yes. Do you need to be able to find, are there moderate Democrats anymore? I don't know. I don't know if there are moderate Democrats who are left because those that are said, so long, thanks, I'm done, I'm out. I don't know that that's the job. I think it would be a hard enough job to be able to bring Republicans together, given some of the really, different voices just within the Republican Party. I think that would be would be pretty difficult. I don't know that I agree with you, Dave, but he said, who do the Dems hate most? They should get the gig. I don't know that would be the direction to go, but I understand the sentiment. Sean saying Thune wants the job, but he's too likely to give in to the Democrats. Well, I'm just concerned he's not going to stand up for Republicans. I'm concerned, is he going to stand up for Donald Trump? He is not. That's why I just shared a bunch of emails with you from folks who were saying, that John Thune has not been a voice as Donald Trump was fighting a lot of this stuff. Now, again, I think, keep in mind, Donald Trump is a Republican now, but he is not a part of the Republican base. And I think what he has done is really kind of transformed the Republican Party. It's become a more populist party than it was, rather than and driven by ideology. And Donald Trump is a common sense guy. And that appeals to me. I mean, talking about common sense all of the time, every day on the show, because it's so rare right now to find folks. It's certainly in Washington, it's pretty rare to see the kind of common sense that Donald Trump displays. And that's what Americans want. Overwhelmingly, that's what we saw. Kathy also believes that Thune would be Tom Dashel round 2. During his campaign, Thune said Dashel was too Washington. Well, now it's Thune. Yeah, it's kind of unfortunate. Folks, as they spend time in Washington, that's kind of what happens. Wesley, glad to have you along, my friend. Good to hear from you. Bipartisan Democrats means Republicans move our way. Yeah, I kind of agree with that. Absolutely agree. Bipartisan to Thune-type Republicans means exactly the same thing. Yeah, many of us, I think, are very, very concerned about Senator John Thune. And David said that Senator John Fetterman right now showing himself to be a moderate. Well, and it's showing you how far Democrats have gone astray. I mean, this is what's wrong with the Democrat Party. This is what I talked about in the final hour of the program today. And you look at the reaction now. Suddenly, Joe Biden is a peaceful transition of power, and he's extending an olive branch to Donald Trump, and they're going to have a meeting, and all of this, and we've got to work. That was not the Joe Biden of 2 weeks ago. And so then you get Karine Jean-Pierre at the Ministry of Truth, who's trying to carry that message. Again, is not what we were hearing from Karine Jean-Pierre. So suddenly we have seen this literally overnight transformation. Now they're all about, we got to listen, and we got to be, respectful of people, and we lost, and we got to respect that. Have you felt for 1 minute during this administration that you were respected by the Joe Biden administration? That Joe Biden respected you? Do you believe that when he made the comment about Donald Trump and there was a comedian on stage at one of the last Donald Trump rallies, and some of the jokes that he was telling, Trump didn't say it, and then Biden reacting to that, calling Donald Trump supporters garbage. And the White House tried to clean that up. Oh, no. We were not referring to all Donald Trump supporters, just that one, just the comedian. But that's not what the president said. They even tried to change the White House transcript. I mean, these people are liars. They just lie. They lie repeatedly over and over and over. And now suddenly, oh, we've all got to get along. You know what? We kicked their butts. I mean, I just don't buy the about face, the sudden about face. Now suddenly, oh, we're all about peaceful transition of power. And underlying that is Donald Trump didn't accept it. You know, he didn't accept a peaceful transition of power when he was president last time. You know, but what they're trying to do is show they're more magnanimous, right? They are more magnanimous than Donald Trump was. It's garbage. It's absolute garbage. It's pure. There may be some, excuse me. That coughing just gets to me. And forgive me, it's my meds that do that to me. And also these hours on the air, talking at length, does it a little bit to me as well. But they're trying to show we're more magnanimous than Donald Trump. Donald Trump 4 years ago, Donald Trump, remember all, what happened January 6th, remember all that? We're not going to do that. We're above that kind of thing. Don't buy it. I'm certainly not. Joe Biden and Karine Jean-Pierre and the people in the White House, they have been showing us for 4 years who they are. For 4 years. Longer than that in Joe Biden's case. I mean, it's why I voted against him. I never would have elected Joe Biden. I couldn't, seriously. There's no way I could have ever voted for Joe Biden. But during that time, certainly he has shown us who he is. And opening up the borders wide open, just absolutely incredible. And now suddenly he wants what? You and I are supposed to forget all that. Again, I want to move forward, but I'm not going to forget the past while I do it. In fact, if you don't reflect on the past and remember the past, you're bound to make the same mistakes again. So don't forget that they're the ones who got us into this mess. They're the ones who opened up the border. And I think that message got delivered loud and clear on Election Day. And it's been pretty amazing to watch this throughout. Wes is saying, had Harris won, they'd be gloating about a mandate. We must run with this now. And I agree with that. I think, now again, keep in mind, the work's not over. The work hasn't even begun yet, really. And I think it's going to be hard work ahead, especially for the Trump administration and the folks who will be in the administration. But I think as engaged as people were in this election, it's important that you and me, that we stay engaged, that we understand what's going on, and that we're voting for people who are going to, be that instrument of change that I think Americans are just starving for. I mean, that was the message of this election. We're starving for that kind of change. And this is why, as we talk about who will Republicans choose as the next Senate majority leader, I don't think John Thune is that instrument of change. I've not been inspired by him these past 4 years at all. He has not inspired me. And that was not the case 20 years ago. 20 years ago, very, very different story. And I was... I was one of those who worked hard to try to get John Thune, elected to the Senate, and was glad when first time he was defeated. Second time, he won his seat, but he is not the same person who who I visited with so many times in those early days, um, he's just not the same person. It's really kind of disappointing. Tyler says it's disappointing that these national elections have become such high stakes for both sides. I might be alone on this thought, but I would argue that we need to cripple the power of the federal government. I think a lot of, and he goes on to say, return power to the states. I think a lot of us are feeling that way. Getting the power back to the states. And that's a tough message, I think, for those who, when it comes to the life issue, um, they want it all, and that's unfortunately that's really just not the country we live in. I'm very much a pro-life person as well, but leave it up to the states. I would like to see power restored to the states, power taken away from the federal government. I would love to see an end to this excessive government spending. Now, federal government spending. I'm talking about the federal government. This excessive federal government spending on everything. I would like to see an end to that, so that states, if they decide that there is a need and they want to, pursue something, then they have the resources and the ability to be able to do this. Government is always best when it's closest to the people. I believe that for a long time, now more than ever. So I appreciate what you're saying. Dave is saying incorrigible, deplorable, garbage. I guess these are pet names for us on the right. I will not forget. Yeah, I don't think we should forget. The question is, whether we can let that poison us as well. Because I refuse to let the garbage that the left is spewing at us all of the time. I refuse to let that poison who I am and my message and what I want to say to you, and the way that, and as well as to others and to Democrats. I want to have respect for people who feel differently. I do not want to belittle, condemn, refer to them as garbage, call them fascists. And I mean, it's just absolutely incredible. You can't do that and win elections. You just can't. Now, that should be obvious to a 5-year-old, but it's not obvious to Democrats in Washington. Just absolutely incredible. And Sean's saying, yeah, we've got to stay engaged, remain vigilant, keep pushing our elected leaders to live up to the mandate that we've given them. Totally agree. Yeah, Rick Scott from Florida throwing his head into the ring too. But I'm not sure he's any better than Thune or Cornyn. Interesting. Ben is on something. This is one of those things that's incredibly popular with the electorate. Term limits. Absolutely. And it's unfortunate. Isn't it interesting when you see even politicians who say, okay, I'll go in. I'm only running for, I will only run for, I will only do, 2 terms. And then at the end of the 2 terms, it's like, well, you know what I mean? They just can't bring themselves to do it. One of the problems the country has got is that politicians have made it a career. It was never, ever meant to be that way. You go and it was meant to be public service. You were meant to sacrifice. So you went, and those, I think, who served early in our country's history, that's what they did. They went and then they went back home. They didn't stay full-time in Washington. They went back home and returned to their lives in their home states. That's what it was intended to be. the idea of career politicians, and many others are agreeing with this about Lauren. Thanks, Lauren. Lauren said, "Preach it, Greg." But many of you are agreeing with term limits. Totally agree about this. Yeah, Tyler said, let each state be more sovereign and independent. I think this would lead to less friction between both parties. Will the Trump administration pursue this? I'm hopeful. Here's the thing that I think we have to keep in mind. The country right now, Democrats have left it a smoking garbage pile. Seriously. This is a big job. They got 4 years to do it. He's got 4 years. And now I'm not saying that Republicans won't win the next election, but I'm saying Donald Trump is done. Donald Trump, after this election, is done. And don't forget, there are going to be lawsuits. I mean, I'm fully expecting the lawsuits to be as soon as Trump takes office, if not before. I'll bet money that the lawsuits are being drafted right now. They are already drafting lawsuits. And as soon as Donald Trump starts, doing things, man, the lawsuits are going to be filed. So this is a big, big job. And as I have said many times, America didn't get into this mess overnight. We're surely not going to get out of it overnight. It's going to take time. And as I was saying, it's going to take you and me. It's going to take folks on Main Street saying, keeping our nose to the grindstone. I was really elated to see that so many of the registered voters in South Dakota went to cast their ballots this year. We had nearly a 70% voter turnout. It's almost that high. Now that's just that's just registered voters. You've got a number of people then who are not registered at all, who are not or others who are not eligible to vote. But about 70% of registered voters who got out to vote. That shouldn't just happen during big elections. You've got to keep that momentum going. You've got to go vote in your primaries. You've got to go vote in municipal elections. You've got to get out and make your voice heard every time you get the chance, every time you have the opportunity. You've got to get out there and do it. And it's because we don't do that. We wait until things are bad, they're terrible. When things are good, nobody wants to vote. Things are good, I'm happy. I'm not going to go vote. You've got to go vote. You've got to do it. Because if you don't, this is how we wind up with this mess. This has been building and building and building really over a period of time. So if Americans want their country back, you don't do that with a single vote. You do that by participating in the process repeatedly, learning what the issues are, who the candidates are, and it takes some work. I understand that. It takes a little bit of work. I was so proud of South Dakotans in particular because there were 4 constitutional amendments, 2 initiated measures, 1 referred law that were all on the ballot. And South Dakota, you know what South Dakotans said? No. And I don't know that you would see that. In fact, you look at other states, South Dakota was, and for instance, let's talk about, recreational marijuana. South Dakota was one of 4 or 5 states. Florida was another that said no to recreational marijuana. But that is not where the country overall has been going. This is why I think it's so great to live in this state. This is why I love this state, because there are enough people here who are common sense kind of folks. They got their feet on the ground, they're thinking, and they're saying, how is recreational marijuana? Wait a minute. I've seen what recreational marijuana has done to Colorado. Why do I want that for South Dakota. It's a no-brainer. It's an absolute no-brainer. Some of these other things as well. I was so glad to see that the open tier, top two primary system go down in flames. Oh man, that one was driving me nuts. So it was good to see a lot of these things go down in flames. But again, you and I have got to get out and vote. There are going to be elections where you're going to go, oh, this is the only thing that's on the ballot. It's not worth. I'm busy. It's not worth my time. It's always worth your time. It is always worth your time. I think if you and I want to be good citizens, it takes work. It's not just, well, I'm a citizen, so I can go play video games. I can, whatever I'm going to do, whatever my hobby is, go do that and not have to worry about voting. Too busy. No. I think a prerequisite of being a good citizen means you're going to get out and vote. And not every election is going to be certainly as impactful as this one, but they're all important. And Americans have gotten lazy. They're completely unengaged. And we've got to change that. And what made me so proud of our state is you saw that kind of attitude in South Dakota. Folks said, no, not. In fact, I got a very nice email from Chris Larson after the election. Chris Larson would been encouraging folks to vote no on a number of different issues, and he was on the program a couple of times. And I got an email from him saying, thanks for having me on the show and thanks for what you did. And I'm like, hey, Chris, I just talked about it. You were the one who was out there talking to people. You were doing the legwork. You were, out there visiting with people. And those are the people that I really appreciate, are those who are, and those who run for office. I've heard from a number of folks, hey, I'm running for office because we got to change these things and we got to change them in our state legislature. And yeah, there's a lot of bad things I think that are going on in the state legislature. I think there are special interests in our state legislature that are not trying to move our state in the right direction. So you got to be engaged. You've got, if you feel really passionately about these things and you've got the time and you've got the ability, run for office. I wanted to run for office years ago. I really did. Because I thought about it. I thought I would like to run for office, and I have found my calling. I'm lucky. I feel really blessed. Thanks to all of you. And it's the relationship that you and I have, the connection that we have together. I feel incredibly blessed where I'm at. And so many of you have said, thank you. I had a caller this morning who, and forgive me, I forget his name, who was saying, you do more for the state than our, congressional delegation does, he was saying. And I'm not going that far. That was his point of view, not necessarily mine. I don't feel that way. I don't go home each day and pat myself on the back. I don't want to give you the wrong idea, but I really feel like I found my calling. This is what I am called to do. This is what I do each morning. And I think in part because the legacy media in particular does not do their job anymore. Because I'm 61 years old right now. I can't imagine what it's going to be like for me in just a couple of years. And because getting up at 3 a.m. every morning takes a toll on me. It's why most nights, again, last night, man, I was asleep, I think, by 7:30 last night. I was out cold. I just don't have the staying power I used to have when I was younger. And it's And even my memory, things are, you know, I'm old. I'm getting older, you know. But this is definitely my calling. I love what I do. I love all of you. I love the interaction, even if we don't agree. I mean, what's important is that you're thinking about things, but it's got to be more than that. You've got to be out and you've got to be voting and you got to cast your ballot in every election. I just think it's so incredibly important. And don't think because okay, Trump won, now we can. No, no. When the next election comes up, and I was saying this on the air recently, is I know not every election is sexy. you know, Again, in this election, I wouldn't say it was just sexy. It was, man, it was really, really important. Americans understand and they get it and they want to see change. And so they voted in droves overwhelmingly. This is why the Democratic Party literally is in ruins this morning. But what about those elections when it's county commission and you think, yeah, I don't have time. Make the time. Find the time. Look into the candidates, be that citizen who's engaged, cares about the community, and goes to vote. And go to vote every time you've got the opportunity. I just think we cannot relent. Okay, we won the election. We cannot take our foot off the gas. We've got to keep going as citizens. I'm not talking about elected officials, but as citizens, we've got to keep our foot on the gas and say, we just can't stop. We demand that of our elected leaders that you do the things that you promised that you would do. And we expect you to, you know, honor your own campaign promises and do what you told us you would. And let's just hold their feet to the fire. All right. Oh man, I went a lot longer than I realized. Taking a look at and a lot of you are commenting here as well. Ben said he appreciated the F yes, no on the rest slogan. Helpful. Yeah, and that's the way I voted. That's exactly the way I voted. Yeah, and this one. By the way, I cringed when that Referred Law 21 fake commercial came on saying Jane Fonda wanted a no vote. Who in the heck made that one? That's like, great point. Because seriously, I was clenching my teeth in the studio. Again, the way that I behave upstairs and the way that I behave here with you, when, again, I don't have any advertisers here that I got to make happy. And, when advertising messages are on the air, I don't want to respond to them. I don't want to react to them. Because they're paying for the time and I'm glad for it because they're keeping the lights on. They're paying me, right? So I really keep my mouth shut when I'm up and on the air. That the Jane Fonda liberals, they're the ones who are behind Referred Law 21. I'm like, what? What? The folks that I know who were opposing Referred Law 21 were South Dakota landowners. South Dakota landowners. They were the ones who were, in opposition to that. And so it was just crazy, but I really had to bite my tongue during those commercials. I hope you will do me a favor and give me a thumbs up today. And I want to thank you so much for your time. You invest a lot of time with me. It's very much appreciated. I want to wish you a great weekend. You take care. Hope to see you again on Monday. So long until then, my friend, and may God bless.